Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Okay, this is the Ascension Energy Program conference call with Bill Kirkland and Kevin Courtois. The topic tonight is the power of incremental change. And basically I'm going to talk about the philosophies that will help one become successful, you know, being on the program and also in life in general. And also I'm going to relate to my personal experiences growing up when things didn't really work out to how now things are becoming, working out quite well. Now, I heard about the concept of incremental change. Actually, it was a quote from Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computers, and his basic philosophy was to improve at least one thing every day, and that these little small changes add up to massive improvements within your life and, of course, within his business. And, you know, it enabled him to refine his business model down where he is Dell Computers is the most efficient company from a cost perspective, perhaps in the world. They can actually make computers cheaper than they can in China, which is unheard of in America. So he took the refinement process down to a level which no one else in America in the business model has been able to do. And so I liked that philosophy because, you know, at the time of my life, I was probably in my early 20s. I was pretty much an all or nothing type of guy. And so if I wanted to achieve something, I grabbed a hold of it and I choked it to death. And I basically broke it and then, you know, moved on. So my life was initially, I would improve a lot in endeavors, and then I'd hit a flat period and get dissatisfied, and then I would throw it away and move on to the next thing. So I was constantly trying new things, moving on, and then I'd have this philosophy of, well, I tried that, it doesn't work. I tried that, it doesn't work. And I keep moving along trying these different things, and, you know, I never was able to achieve any real success. And so, you know, after a while you get into this chronic state of, like, apathy and indifference where you don't believe you can really ever achieve anything or amount to anything, so you begin putting less than your full effort into things. And so later on I realized that that mentality was totally built on the character defense of impatience. So my number one character defect within myself was I was very impatient. I wanted things now. I was unwilling to wait and work for things. And so this is basically a very childlike, childish behavior, and it's someone that's addicted to immediate gratification. So basically I was an energy junkie. I was an energy junkie emotionally, certainly within nutritionally. I love sweet things. I love things that, you know, impacted my physiology very immediate, like caffeine, sugar. You know, I needed these highs. So I was constantly seeking, well, how do I get high again? How do I get more explosive experience in my life? Not realizing that rather than allowing myself to build a life gradually and build a functional life in the real world, all I was doing was chasing these experiences, which ultimately led to destruction of my physical body, my emotional wealth, my emotional well-being. Everything basically would leave a wreckage of carnage everywhere I went. And so I'll use my history of running, for example, is I really wanted to be like a top-flight runner. And so what I did was I went out and ran really hard every day and ignored what my body was telling me. So I would put myself in a constant state of oxygen deprivation, which I now know leads to a breakdown of the immune system and also a breakdown of the physical body. And so invariably what would happen is I would make training gains fairly quickly, and then, you know, I would either push myself into illness through getting an illness. When you're in top flight condition, your immune system is very sensitive, and when you get to the point where you overtrain, everything falls apart and breaks down. So I would always overtrain. I never understood the concept of balance and allowing things to take root over a period of time, because I thought unless it was a painful experience every day, I wasn't going to get any results, so no pain, no gain. So I applied that virtually to every area of my life. Now, I grew up in a very unstable household where everything was built on turmoil, so there was constant turmoil energetically or emotionally every single day of my life. So unless things were in a state of turmoil, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel at peace or any sense of, so I felt comfortable in a state of chaos. And this happened nutritionally. This happened in my business life. I'd get a job and I'd overwork myself. So I would work 60 hours a week. I'd stay up all the time. I'd exercise hard. I never understood the concept of rest, of being at peace and allowing things to manifest as a result of not doing anything. I didn't know about not doing, the art of not doing. So, I get older. My body does not start to obey. The body starts to break down. I start getting dissatisfied. I'm like 27, 28. I'm completely shot. I have no energy. My immune system doesn't work. My adrenal glands are not functioning, and I'm a wreck. And I began to examine my life and began to see that this never really worked. And then I began to examine successful people and what actually worked for them. And so, Michael Dell's concept was, at the time, I had no energy and I couldn't really do anything. It wasn't working. It was pretty much completely dysfunctional, so I could only do a few things in my life. So when I saw, well, if I do one or two good things, and that's all I could do in a day, at least I was making a little bit of progress. So I began to adopt this philosophy, more of a long-term philosophy in my life. And so it allowed me to tackle projects and things that would take maybe 3 to 5 years. It began to break me in a habit of being an energy junkie or an emotional junkie. And so I began to work towards things. I began to build patience. And so as I began to build patience like a muscle, I began to accomplish things. Now, I gradually had to change my goals from success-oriented to basically doing things. So my goal was to do X, Y, and Z. I would do 10 things in a day, and that if I accomplished those 10 things, then the long-term goals seemed to take care of themselves. Now, you get into the energy technologies, and you go from a state of energy depletion, all of a sudden you're flush and full with energy. So now if you come in with a lot of impatience, what are you going to do? You're going to want to feel always good. That's number one. So you feel great when you go into technologies. What happens is it flushes out your system, and then you don't feel so good. You'll start to see things in your personality that maybe you don't like. Your control issues come out. And so the response is, in someone that's impatient is, I need to go up to the next machine because I don't feel good. Okay? Well, that isn't necessarily the solution. The solution fundamentally is a flawed belief system, because the long term, running really fast will never work in the long term. It's a slower approach, the more subtle approach that produces the bigger long-term gains. And so I've noticed that these technologies are so powerful, the water and the distance energy, and combined, they're amazing. They will change your life on such profound levels that if you just start looking and making subtle changes and looking for subtle changes in your life, you're going to be shocked at what you can accomplish. And in the span of 13 months of being on the program, I've gone from being in a nice size amount of debt to now I'm financially out of debt. I have relationships with other people that are much heads and tails above what I've ever experienced in my life. I'm experiencing extended states of peace and bliss, which I've never achieved long term in my life. I'm achieving physical gains with my body and athletics that I'm now starting to achieve results that I got in my early 20s in top flight conditions, because now my body is changing to be able to handle these intense energetic experiences. Now, the nervous system over time will adapt and evolve. And I related to rock stars. What happens with rock stars is they become energy junkies, because if you've ever spoken in public in front of large groups of people, you know how incredibly ecstatic these experiences are. So a rock star will get out in public and he'll have this incredible concert and he'll feel high as a kite, and then his nervous system crashes a couple days later, and then what happens again? He's got to go out and do another concert, and so he's in a chronic